Otherwise, it's going to be Cobain. Like, I felt that bad.
Silverchair broke onto the scene in 1995 with their debut record, Frog Stomp. Was a massive success for the band, featuring the songs Israel's Son, Tomorrow, Pure Massacre. The band shot straight to the top of the charts, instantly recognizable wherever they went, and their lives had now changed forever. And then came their follow-up, Freak Show. The album itself, and specifically the first single from the record, Freak, were a huge success for the band. But with that success, and the successes they had already experienced with their debut Frog Stomp, came a lot more pressures for the band. And it was following the success of Freak Show in '97 where lead singer Daniel Johns began to develop anorexia, the eating disorder that nearly took his life. Johns stated that due to the band's fame, when they returned back to Newcastle, his hometown, he was subject to bullying and all these things he couldn't control, but the one thing he could control was his eating.
It felt like everything was so out of control around me that the reason, I think, was just to gain control.
Johns had become a recluse and had confined himself to his bedroom. It was during this time that fans would camp outside his family home and critics would spray paint anti-Silverchair graffiti on the front fence if he did not leave the house.
He didn't leave. I mean, he really didn't leave. He didn't even leave the room. He was a true recluse, and there were Silverchair fans camping outside on the street.
He had become estranged from his two bandmates, Ben Gillies and Chris Joannou. Johns said in his own words that if he didn't get the help he needed, he was going to become the next Kurt Cobain.
I just used to have to just sit and figure this shit out by myself. Otherwise, it's going to be Cobain. Like, I felt that bad. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to forge my own future.
But it was from the help of their producer, Nick Launay. He was the one who helped Johns get back up and at it again and starting to record some of his new music.
Somehow it became this idea that I should go up and hang out with Daniel because Daniel and me got on really well, and that maybe he would play me some songs. Whatever we can do to help him, really, because everybody's worried about his health. He was very, very, very thin.
So Launay went to see Daniel in his room. They played some music together. Johns would eventually end up playing some of his new songs to Nick Launay. The songs were more elaborate than their first two records, and Launay knew they needed a good drummer and a good bass player. Launay told Johns to show the new songs to Ben and Chris. Johns thought that they would hate them. Launay ended up spending a couple of nights with Daniel, then went to go and see Ben to talk to him about the new material, and to try to get back together with Johns. And Gillies was just so thrilled that Johns was writing again, and he wanted to play on anything that he had written.
Ben was crying, he was so, not upset, he was kind of like a joy thing of like, oh, he was so happy to hear that Daniel was actually writing songs and that was actually okay. Then eventually I went back to Daniel and I said, look, I've spoken to Ben, and they're like you, they want to experiment too. They don't want to just do another record like the last one. Would you be into meeting up with them and playing them your songs?
Daniel eventually agreed to this. All three Silverchair members got back together, and it was just like the good old times. And with that came the release of Neon Ballroom, a new sounding Silverchair record. Still hard and heavy for the most part, but they went away from that grunge sound they had adopted on their first two albums, and were far more experimental in parts. And of course, one of the big hit songs from this album was Anna's Song, a song that details John's struggles with anorexia.
We recorded that song in a day, and I really think that Anna's Song is one of the most amazing songs of all time. And I think they got it in 3 takes. Maybe the easiest song I've ever produced.
However, it was a song that almost nearly didn't make the record. At the time, it was recommended by Silverchair's management not to record the song because it was just too personal and too vulnerable. But of course, the song was included on the album and is one of the cornerstone tracks from the record. So this was at the time Johns had many struggles in his life, but he was able to overcome that, and Silverchair would go on to record 2 further records, Diorama and Young Modern, before they would eventually break up. So go back and check out some Silverchair music if you haven't already. They were certainly a force to be reckoned with in the 90s, and a whole catalog of awesome material there. So thanks guys for tuning in as always. Be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll catch you next time.